In this demonstration, we will add an admin in Mail Assure. An admin should be created for each customer so that the domains belonging to that customer can be administered collectively. To add an admin, click Users and Permissions, and select Manage Admins. Click Add. It is strongly recommended to use a combination of the organization name and the customer's name for the username field. The username must be unique across the entire Mail Assure platform. Enter a randomly generated long string for the password, such as one generated by a password manager. You can discard this password after creating the admin. In this example, we will create a username, password, and confirm the password. Enter a valid email address for the user. The status indicates the account status of the customer. If you need to disable access to the app for a customer, you can change it to inactive. In this example, we will leave the default status to active. Allow sub-admins. Choose to allow to enable the account to create lower-level admins to further organize the administration of domains at this customer, or deny restricting the creation of admins, or default to inherit the properties of the parent admin. In this example, we will select Allow. Choose to allow or deny the customer to take action on outgoing spam messages found in the outgoing log search. Selecting Default will inherit the parent admin's properties. In this example, we will select Default. Incorrectly trained or incorrectly released messages can lead to unsafe messages reaching recipients and cause reputation issues that may impact general deliverability. Allow Control Panel API usage allows the user to execute any of the API calls listed on the Control Panel API calls page. Check the box to allow the control or deselect to deny the user of the option. In this example, we will leave the checkbox to the default selected. Select which services are active for the customer: incoming mail, outgoing mail, archiving, and whether they have access to the private label area of the application where branding can be customized. This makes the product features available to the domains assigned to this admin. It is recommended to leave all services enabled and manage active services per domain or mailbox. In this example, we will retain the default selection to have all the products available for the user. Then select Private Label Access to Standard. Require authentication as email user to access archived messages. Once this option is enabled, archived messages will only be visible or exportable after authentication as the end user to whom the message belongs. While this option is turned on, lower-level admins cannot override it. When inactive, the customer can view or export all archived message content for all mailboxes at all domains that they administrate. In this example, we will retain it as inactive. If prevent domain users from adding outgoing users, IP authentication is set to active, the domain user will not be able to create an outgoing user where authentication is done by IP. If inactive, domain users can create an outgoing IP authenticating user. In this example, we will retain it as inactive. If prevent domain users from adding outgoing users, SMTP authentication is set to active, the domain users will not be able to create an outgoing user where authentication is done by SMTP authentication. When inactive, domain users are able to create an outgoing SMTP authenticating user. In this example, we will retain it as inactive. For the domains limit, set the number of domains that can be added. In this example, we will set the limit to 5. For no limit on domains, set the value to 0. Add any notes where needed. And click Save. Additional information on adding an admin is available in the Mail Assure user guide.